If you are from the biopharmaceutical and pharmaceutical industry, then I'm sure you are going to connect with what we are going to talk today. Well, validation. Validation is something without which you cannot get regulatory approvals and many more things. And I have personally seen that if we are talking about quality assurance, regulatory compliance, product safety, or cost efficiency, then we are talking validation. This validation services is provided by a lot of vendors, but what caught my eye was Merck Validation Lab. Now, this lab is going to celebrate 20 years in operations now this year, 20 years anniversary. So I caught up with the head of operations at Merck Validation Services, and his name is Dr. Ramesh Raju, and he is going to be with us shortly. So let me tell you a bit about the validation services. So as we know, it's very important if you want to innovate and improve on your existing products. It also helps biopharmaceutical companies and pharmaceutical companies overcome legal and ethical obligations. And that is where companies like Merck have come up with amazing services. So let's bring up on the screen Ramesh. Hi, Ramesh. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Shekhar. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us in this session. So, we are going to celebrate 20 years of Merck Validation Lab. Congratulations for that. And
Thank you.
I'm told that pretty much the Merck Validation Lab has grown with you because you have been there for the last 10 years, right? So, if you could throw some light on what are the things we do at Merck Validation Lab.
Um, as you were rightly saying, the biopharmaceutical manufacturers who specifically manufacture injectables by aseptic processing, they are required by the regulatory authorities to prove that whatever the product contact paths they use during the manufacturing, they should not be additive, reactive, or absorptive to the product that they are manufacturing. Meaning that the process should end in a sterile product and which is safe to the patients who are going to be taking it, right? So this calls for validation of that aseptic manufacturing process of the injectables. Merck has been into this
Mhm.
services for almost more than 3 decades now globally. In India, if you
Right.
see, the US FDA regulations came up in 2004, whatever regulations I was talking of just now.
Right.
Coincidentally, with that, the Indian biopharmaceutical manufacturers started uh, preparing to sell their products abroad. So they normally file ANDAs or first to file and so on, right? So that is when they started filing the dossiers. They started searching for markets. That is when the actual Indian pharmaceutical market took off. So that is when
Right.
Merck India decided to set up a lab here somewhere in 2002 and
Mhm.
2003. We started by
Mhm.
validating a few molecules, but now we are one of the biggest labs of Merck at Bangalore. Coincidentally, I
Wow.
joined this organization in 2006, around 18 years now. Initially, I was heading
Mhm.
the technical services or the tech support function for India. After that, for India and Singapore.
Mhm.
I took over this lab
Mhm.
somewhere in 2012, 2013, increased the
Wow.
capacity. We started serving only India when I took over. But right now, from this lab,
Mhm.
we don't serve only the Indian customers. We serve South Korea, Taiwan, Southeast Asia and Oceania, Eastern Europe, Middle
Right.
East and Africa, and Latin American countries. So it's almost forms 60% of the globe shaker. So this is how the lab grew,
Wow.
and this is how the team has
Mhm.
grown here. And that is what has given me a career opportunity with Mark. It's simply fantastic to
Wow. So
work
it's
for a human cause.
yeah, and it's truly from India for the world
Yes,
service,
yes.
and it, it makes me so proud to know that you are right here in Bangalore, and probably we should catch up, right? So, Ramesh, I'm sure the services has grown, and the real test of your validation lab would have been, I'm sure, when the pandemic hit and the COVID pandemic was there. If you could throw some light how your lab played a crucial role in the COVID pandemic era, uh, that will be great for our
That's
audience.
something this team is really proud of, Shikha. Um, the quality
Hmm.
management system of Merck is very strong, and we actually work on a risk-based approach over here. So much before
Right.
anyone had foreseen a pandemic, somewhere in 2017, Merck had built in something called a business continuity plan, that is a mandate for all the critical services
Hmm.
that we deliver from Merck. So in 2017, we had
Okay.
built in a process that in case we had a catastrophe, then how do we continue our services to our customers so that when they manufacture the product and sell it to the humanity, at the end, the humanity should not suffer because of a continuity of a service or a product from us, right?
Hmm.
So when the pandemic came in,
Right.
we sort of had this in place. Yes, the
Hmm.
first couple of days were a little tough because we had to get government licenses to be open. We had to get police permissions to stay open, right?
Yeah.
But after that,
Right.
we were just open through and through in phase one, phase two, phase three. Um,
Hmm.
we not only worked on validation of vaccines and the vaccine related buffers for organizations in India, but we worked for those
Hmm.
organizations which were making vaccines in South Korea, in Taiwan, in the LATAM countries, in the Europe. So because all other
Hmm.
labs around the globe, everywhere were shut down,
Hmm.
and we were the only ones open, all the molecules were here. So, for example, when people were struggling to get remdesivir, this lab was open, and then we were working with all the manufacturers, validating the process for all of them.
Hmm.
And it also happened that
Wow.
we worked in shifts because getting remdesivir out or getting amphotericin out or having that life-saving medicines in time out into the market was really critical for us. So yes, we worked. The team is very proud. Not that we were not affected, right? So humans at the end of the day, yes, some of us uh, got COVID, the families got COVID, but Merck is a fantastic
Hmm.
company. At the site, we had all
Right.
the facilities that we needed. So regular screening of employees, healthcare for employees, medical facilities for employees, cylinders on standby. So it's a fantastic organization with
Hmm.
a fantastic quality management system. Proud of my team, and that is how we truly feel very proud to having served the humanity in the pandemic.
Wow, wow. That was really amazing to learn. And the best part is you people were ready in 2017 itself for 2020 when the pandemic hits. That's really a great thing. Now let's look at the services which you provide. So what all, if you could throw some light on all the important services which Merck Validation Lab is providing right now, if you could let us know about
Yep. So as I said, the regulations require that the validations should prove that the product contact paths should not be reactive, additive, or absorptive. Right. So Merck has a range of products. We not only sell filters, which are used to sterilize products, but we also have Mobius single-use solutions. It has assemblies, it has bags, so actually, someone can set up a complete single-use manufacturing facility, which gives the customer the flexibility for different batch sizes, different molecules in the same line with different capacities, no changeover problems, carryover problems, and all that, right? So when we have to do this, the first thing that comes is that we need to prove that the the customer, when they manufacture this product with their process parameters
that. Right.
using Merck products and solutions, will produce a sterile effluent. So the bacterial retention study becomes the primary study which has to be conducted in compliance with the global regulatory. Because as I said, from India, we don't serve only the Indian customers, but we serve the globe. So we need to have our
Right.
procedures and processes in compliance with all the regulations around the globe. The second thing
Right.
is that the regulations require that the product contacts parts should not be reactive, meaning they should be compatible, right? So we provide the
Right.
compatibility studies to prove that whatever Merck products are there which are coming in contact with the customer products or the processes are compatible at the process conditions, at that temperature or pressure for that duration of contact, right? The third one is it says it
Right.
should not be additive or absorptive. Additive meaning it should not add something into the customer product, which when it goes to the human being could pose a safety threat to the human. Because remember, we are talking of injectables, it goes directly into the
Right.
mainstream of the blood, right?
Veins.
Uh, Hence,
Right.
here comes into picture something called extractables and leachables. So we have something called
Mm-hmm.
improved program where the customer can log in into our systems. They can have a license. They log in into the systems, or they work with us to conduct a test for extractables or leachables to find out is
Mm-hmm.
anything coming? If something is coming out from the
Mm-hmm.
product contact parts into the main product, how much is it coming out? And with that, we
Mm-hmm.
help the customer to do a patient safety assessment, meaning how much of this injectable is going to the patient for how many days and through what route of administration. And at this dose, is it
Right.
safe to the patient or not? So we don't stop with
Yeah.
extractable leachable testing, but then we also provide the customers with the patient safety assessment. The fourth one and
Mm-hmm.
uh, not the least one is that whenever a manufacturing is complete, the biopharmaceutical manufacturers need to prove that the filter that is used is still integral, meaning that the
Right.
product is still sterile at the end of it, right? So here comes an
Right.
integrity test for the filters, and it is always not possible to test a filter for integrity with a microorganism because it's out on the shop floor and humans are there. So we actually support the
Mm-hmm.
customers with a product based integrity test limit that they can put into their SOPs or their release standards, and that actually helps them to release the product
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the manufacturing. With the European Annexure 1,
Right.
which has come out on August of this year, it also requires that
Right.
the biopharmaceutical manufacturers should do post sterilization pre use integrity testing of the filter. So this services that we give
Okay.
to the customer, the limit we give to the customer, they can use it both for the PUPSET, post-sterilization pre-use integrity testing, as well as for the
Mm-hmm.
post-use integrity testing. And if at all the customers are going to be doing
Mm-hmm.
PUPSET shaker, it's going to be a benefit for them because when they make a flush
Right.
during the PUPSET, it would help them to bring down extractables and leachables, and it would ensure the patient safety as well. So these are some services that we give.
Wow.
Other than this, there are some services which are on request basis. Say, for example, some pharmaceutical manufacturers are coming across um, particles coming out from their manufacturing process into their product. So we can help them to investigate and find out what it is. And we also have
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
consulting services where we can work with them to help them to arrive at a best strategy that can suit their manufacturing process so that they can mitigate the risk right at the beginning before they start the validation. We
Right.
also support our customers
Right.
after they file the ANDA, after they get the approvals, during the audits on site, like you have an US FDA audit or European audit or NVISA audit, and the regulator has some questions for you. Normally, we are available on a call or at site so that we don't
Mm-hmm.
just validate and walk off. We support the
Okay.
manufacturers before the validation, during
Mm-hmm.
the validation, and as long as the product is getting
During inspection.
manufactured. So this is something in short.
All right. So that's a 360-degree support which Merck
Yeah.
Validation Lab provides. Wonderful, wonderful. So while I was listening to you, it was really intriguing, and so I was wondering, what are the specific molecules which you are validating at this juncture? Any clues if you could
Um,
throw us?
it's very interesting when we talk of this particular topic or the question that you asked, because um, anything that is manufactured and claimed to be sterile has to be validated,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it can
Of
be an
course.
oncology
Mm-hmm.
injection, any anti-cancer chemotherapy injections, right? It can be ophthalmics,
Mm-hmm.
the eye drops or the nasal drops that go in, right? And of late you will
Mm-hmm.
see that in ophthalmics, the very complex molecules coming up in form of suspensions and long acting and gel
Yeah.
forming long acting ophthalmics and so on. In some cases
Mm-hmm.
we come across very interesting molecules which are called orphan drugs. There are
Okay.
some diseases which are very rare in the world, and something like Hodgkin's diseases, right? So here is something
Right.
which normally many of the biopharmaceutical manufacturers are not interested because they don't have a big business. But there are a very few
Right.
of them who work on it to serve the humanity and
Mm-hmm.
not to make business, right? So yeah,
Not to make
so those are
yeah.
some things that we are happy to work with to serve the humanity as well.
Mm-hmm.
We work on vaccines,
Wonderful.
we work on monoclonal
Mm-hmm.
antibodies, we work on mRNA
Mm-hmm.
vaccines. Of late, that's a new trend that's coming up now. We
Mm-hmm.
work on,
Yeah,
yeah,
of course.
we work on the generic molecules. Normally, the Indian pharmaceutical manufacturers want to sell their product abroad
Mm-hmm.
in the regulated or the semi-regulated world, right? So we work.
Right.
So
Right.
anything that is sterile, at times there are also ointments which are claimed sterile, and then we work on them. So any
Right.
solutions. There are also some solutions which are used in radiology, right? So, for example,
Mm-hmm.
there are solutions which are used during the scanning where they are radio opaque. So they need to be sterile
Mm-hmm.
when they're given into the body components, right? So
True.
these are the wide range
True.
of products that we work on, Shekhar.
Right. So that brings me to the next question. Like, who all are your major clients? If you could let us know,
Um,
will that be
we do
possible?
sign a confidentiality agreement with the customers, but I could take it this
Right.
way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Almost everyone in India who is manufacturing for selling abroad in the overseas market
Mm-hmm.
are our customers, because Merck is known
Oh,
for compliance. So whenever they're looking
right.
at regulated market, whenever they're looking for compliance, whenever they're looking for a support, so all of them work with us. All the major organizations
Yeah.
in South Korea, all the major organizations in Malaysia, Singapore has some very big organizations as well, right? Some of
Mm-hmm.
them in Bangalore. Both of us are in Bangalore, so many of them in Bangalore, in the Middle East, in
That's
Latin
right.
America. So
Right. Right. Okay. So I'm sure when you're running validation services for all these clients and that too staying compliant with the regulations, what are the major challenges your team face? I'm sure they're very talented people, but I'm sure there must be some challenges. How do you overcome them? What are the challenges and how do you overcome them?
very proud to say that this team has been with us for a long time. So whoever joins the
Wow.
validation services lab take a pride in the job
Mm-hmm.
that they do, that they serve humanity at the end, right? Um,
Right. Right.
we actually train them, we qualify them, and we work on their career plan, internal development plan, as per whatever career they
Mm-hmm.
want, right? So this is how we focus a
Right.
lot on employees, because employee development and employee retention, employee engagement, and
Right.
employee satisfaction
Mhm.
is something which is very much taken care at Mark. Having said that,
Right.
a few minutes ago we discussed about the range of molecules that we talk of, right? So
Yeah.
as an analyst, I will never know what is the molecule next that is coming up, right? So
True. True.
safety of the employees, safety at workplace is very important for us. We are OSHA
Hmm.
certified, we are ISO certified, we have very stringent safety practices at work. Merck has classification of chemicals and agents as well, and we are very clear on what
Hmm.
protective equipment has to be used for which type of classifications. Um, and the second thing
Right.
is we develop. Sorry, the third thing is we developed subject matter experts. So globally, we have
Hmm.
5 labs in Merck, and this is one of the biggest ones out of them.
Hmm.
So in each of the
Hmm.
labs, we have subject matter experts for each subject. For example, for microbiology or bacterial retention testing, for compatibility, extractable, or for
Hmm.
certifications, right? Similarly, we also have a
Right.
project management team. This is the only team which is in contact with the customers. The actual lab operations team is inside. They don't come in contact with the customers. So similarly, the project management
Right.
team are trained, qualified on project management, trained on
Hmm.
customer satisfaction, trained on the latest regulations and the manufacturing processes that happen at the customer places. So this is how the team is always trained. They're always qualified. We always have um, something called soft skill development for our employees. It's not just the technical development. We have soft skill development of the employees twice a year. They undergo their soft skill
Wow.
upgrade, right? And the third thing we look at it
Mhm.
is beyond their job. So, for example, how can they work on their personal hygiene? How can they keep up their health? How they can work on their mental
Mhm.
fitness, how they can work on, being a mindful person into the meditation,
Right.
into taking care of balancing the complete life. So the many aspects at
Right.
Mark that we work on, which keeps the employees engaged with us.
Of course, and I'm sure they must be pretty happy with doing what they're doing for humanity, and that's a great
Yeah.
job. I must commend all of you. So, Ramesh, I was listening to your previous answer, and one question has struck me, and that is, you said that the analyst doesn't know what will be the next
Mhm.
molecule, right? And the life science industry is ever evolving. We are coming up with newer things, newer protocols, regulatory protocols, as well as at the same time newer molecules
Yeah.
which are coming. So how do you guys keep up with all of this? That's really amazing. Can you just throw some light on
Yes.
that?
We also have a team in all the 5 validation labs, which connects all the 5 validation
Mhm.
labs, which is called the global support team, right? Now, these are the guys who look
Mhm.
5 years ahead in terms of regulatory expectations, 5 years ahead of what is coming
Right.
in the market, what type of formulations are coming into the market, and so on. For example, if you see a
Mhm.
few years back, we never talked of microspheres, right? You see,
Mhm.
a few years
Right.
back, we never talked of complex injectables. Um, you see, a few
Mhm.
years back, we never talked of multivalent vaccines. We had trivalent or pentavalent vaccines, but now we are talking of 12 strains or 13 strains coming up, right?
That's right.
Earlier, we
Mhm.
never talked of complex manufacturing processes. It was a simple stainless steel and then one filter, and everything is filtered through it, right? Or probably when I started my career,
Mhm.
there was no filter cartridge as well. There was just a sheet of filter that used to be used at 293 mm. But now we are talking of everything
Right.
getting automated, everything getting automized. There's so much of AI coming into the manufacturing as well. The process parameters
Mhm.
getting controlled, and so on, right? So similarly, we also foresee at Merck on what will be the need of the industry coming up in the next few years, what will be the regulatory expectations that will be coming up. One of the very good initiatives at Mark that has been brought up a couple of years ago, and even the validation services is seriously working on it, is the
Mhm.
digitalization drive. So earlier, any
Right.
analytical lab would normally have manual recording of data, manual documentation of data, right? But right now, we are in all
Right.
electronic lab notebooks. Everything is automated. All the equipment are connected. All the people are connected. The calibrations of equipment is connected. The servicing of the equipment is connected, and over
Mhm.
the period of time, probably by the end of 2024, we expect that the complete testing will also be automated. So that is the drive that we are working with.
Right.
And that is how we are ahead
Mhm.
of the industry, actually. And that what keeps us as the pioneer in this field.
Right. So my next question was actually what you mentioned: AI, machine learning, and all these algorithms coming in, and all the big data, biology, and big sciences. Uh, how are you adapting to this new shift in tech from how it was earlier? And this, of course, digitalization is there, but what about AI and ML? How are you incorporating that in your validation services?
Um, if you look at the regulators, for example, say we are working on a molecule A and we are filing it. For example, I'm a manufacturer and I'm filing it to a regulatory authority, right? Now, the same regulatory
Mhm.
authority
Mhm.
might have seen the same dossier from so many manufacturers around the globe. So they know
True.
how it is manufactured, what are the critical process parameters, and what could go well and what could go wrong, right? Something similar applies to us. So when we see so many molecules, some molecules manufactured in different countries, in different processes, and with different technologies, so we come to know when a molecule comes, we can preempt from the data that we already
Mhm.
have in the databases, and when we analyze them, would it be able to produce a sterile effluent or not? Would it give rise to some extractables and leachables, which could be a patient safety concern or not? So these are some things that we work on, uh, putting the data together, getting some output out of it, out of the artificial intelligence that is coming out. This actually helps the biopharmaceutical manufacturers. For example, if someone has come with a molecule, and if we as a service provider are able to preemptly tell them that this is what could go wrong, or this is what is the way it is expected, or this is the better way you could go through for a compliance or a safe product to the market, or probably you could make it quicker
Mhm.
to the market. Because one thing that the Indian manufacturers look at is for first to file a molecule when something is going off patent, right? So in such case, we can
Right.
actually guide
Right.
them from whatever data that we have out of that data, telling that please take this route and you will be able to meet your business requirements at a quicker pace. So this is how we plan to we are practicing, and we plan to
Mhm.
improve upon this. So
Right, right. So I'm sure in last 10 years, there has been a great learning curve for you also as a person, Ramesh. So if you could throw some light on how it has all been, and what was the biggest takeaway for you personally from the Merck's Validation Lab?
for me personally, when I came into the lab, I did have multiple options to look at, right?
Mhm.
Probably working on the field with the customers, probably working into the business development aspects or something like that. But one thing which was driving me initially into the lab was my qualification, being a pharmacist by qualification,
Yeah,
having been doing a doctorate in extractables and leachables and on patient safety, right? So that's something which was
right,
core to my heart, the initial pharmacy bit of it, which is my career. And the second thing was that,
right.
the potential that exists where you can support the biopharmaceutical manufacturers. So this is a place where you can where you can really work, where you can really contribute to the humanity through so many organizations. There are organizations which come up and say, can you please handhold us? There are someones who are really ahead of the race. So you get to learn from them, right?
Hmm.
And the third thing is
True.
working in the lab with the team on the shop floor. That's something which gives a very great experience, because you see that you have an opportunity to develop people, to make people grow, and then some of them have really gone into good positions within Mark as well after having developed over here, right? So
Hmm.
humanity, contribution to humanity, my core career,
Hmm.
the pharmacy bit of it, which is there, the opportunity that I get at
Right.
Mark, the exposure that I get internally and externally at Mark, and then how I get an
Hmm.
opportunity to develop my people, grow the team, and then get them onto a next level. This is what keeps sticking me on, Shikha.
Wow. Wow, that's really great. So, Ramesh, 20 years of Merck Validation Lab, and I'm sure the next 20 years are going to be glorious for all of you, and I wish you all the best for that. But the competitive landscape is also going to catch up, right? So, how do you plan to keep Merck Validation Lab as the number one, standpoint, the number one company where the validation happens and all the biopharmaceutical companies come to use? How are you going to ensure that in the next 20 years?
You might have seen that, Mark is always serving the humanity. For example, if you have seen so many divisions of Mark, so many product ranges of
Right,
Mark, so we are always dedicated to humanity, and
right.
this sector is a part of the life science, the lab that we are talking of, services we are talking of. So we are directly connected to science and humanity, right? And having said that,
Mhm.
the next 20 years are going to see a very drastic, critical change in the expectation by the regulatory authorities. The PubSet, which has come up of late, is probably the tip of the
Completely agree.
iceberg, right? The second thing is
Right.
the manufacturers themselves are going to be upgrading themselves, completely automated, coming into AI
Hmm.
into the picture, so that there's very minimum human interface with the
Correct.
product, directly with the sterile manufacturing, right? The third one is
True.
probably we are going to see a very big sea change in the technologies that will be used in the manufacture itself. Because the single-use
Hmm.
technologies were never that appreciated before the pandemic. During the pandemic, the industry learned that it has more advantages than just the cost bit of it, right? So this will be coming up as well. So when we put all of them together, for us, we look at it as a great opportunity, a great challenge that is ahead of us. So we would continue to be in touch with the regulatory authorities to see what is coming up next. We are going to be very close
Hmm.
with working with the biopharmaceutical manufacturers around the globe, because we conduct events, we conduct back to school training programs on site, off site. So we are very much in touch with the industry. So we will ensure that we are ahead of the technologies that is being used. Our people are always
Hmm.
our strength. So our people being trained, being upgraded to the next level, bringing it forward, right? All this put together, I think we would be able to cater to the needs of the industry, the needs of the biopharmaceutical
Hmm.
manufacturers, in them being
Hmm.
able to be in compliance with the regulations and with their latest technologies and manufacturing processes they are used. So, last 20 years, I would not say it was challenging. It was challenging. The next 20 years is going to be challenging, but it's going to be more interesting. And yeah, it's
Interesting.
going to be more interesting. It's going to be fantastic. Every couple of years, you will see. a lot of changes, even the complex molecules coming into the play, lot of mini
Right.
complex molecules going off patent, and so on. So there'll be more people coming up into the probably into the geographies which are still growing. For example, if you look at the Middle East and Africa, right, you're seeing many people coming there,
Mhm.
setting up manufacturing, and then wanting to manufacture there rather than importing into
Mhm.
those countries, right? So you see Latin American countries coming up. So you see the Southeast Asian
Mhm.
coming up. So good market, going to be exciting, as I said.
Yeah.
So,
Right, right. All right. So that was really amazing listening to you today. And now that we've learned all the uh, services which Merck has, the Merck Validation Laboratory has 20 glorious years in the past, and uh, they're up for the challenge in the future. And like it is said in the life science and biopharmaceutical industry, that even though it is a regulated industry, manufacturers always take regulation not as a challenge but as business. And Mark Validation Lab is the enabler of their business. So if you are a biopharmaceutical manufacturer or a potential biopharmaceutical manufacturer, you know where to go if you want your validation services done. So with these thoughts, let's end this interview. Thank you so much, Ramesh, for joining us today. It was wonderful. Let's catch up sometime in Bangalore.
thank you,
Thank you.
Shekhar. It was
Bye-bye.
wonderful talking to you. Thank you. Bye.